There is a sacred rhythm behind everything that moves. Though most people cannot see it, it exists. Though the eye may miss it, the soul always knows. There is a timing that does not belong to man, a precision that no calendar can contain, and a harmony that no alarm clock can replicate. This is the timing of heaven. The divine clock, as I call it, is never late. Never early, it is exact. And now, as we step into the beginning of July, that divine clock is striking a quiet but powerful hour. It begins now. Most of us live in resistance to timing. We want things before they're ready. We run toward results before we've gone through refinement. And when life seems to delay our desires, we begin to question the process, or worse, we question ourselves. But the truth is, delay is not denial, detour is not disapproval, and timing that seems silent is not proof of abandonment. It is, instead, preparation. What you think is being withheld is only being matured. A fruit that is plucked too early is sour. A journey that begins too soon collapses under its own weight. The bamboo tree for 5 years shows no growth above the soil, but beneath the surface, roots are forming so strong that once it starts growing, it rises over 90 feet in 6 weeks. Do you call those 5 years a waste? Or do you understand the genius of the unseen? So too is your life. You may look at your past 6 months and see nothing visible. No promotion, no healing, no breakthrough. But that does not mean that nothing was happening. It only means that the roots were growing underground. The divine clock does not start ticking when you see movement. It ticks in silence. It ticks when you are resting. It ticks when you are crying. It ticks when you feel forgotten. And when it strikes the right hour, it does not ask your permission to unfold. It simply begins. July is that kind of beginning. It is the month where the unseen becomes seen, where the roots break the surface, where the weight starts to make sense. But here is the danger. If you do not understand timing, you will misinterpret the moment. You will stand in the doorway of destiny and still feel late. You will walk into opportunity and sabotage it with impatience. You will meet the right people and repel them with fear. Timing must not only be accepted, it must be honored. And that means trusting even when it looks like nothing is happening. That means holding peace when the world says panic. That means breathing in the delay and breathing out the need to control. To live in harmony with the divine clock is to surrender to divine orchestration. In Shaolin philosophy, we are taught to harmonize with nature, not rush it. A flower does not beg to bloom faster. A bird does not argue with the sunrise. The river does not try to reverse its flow. Why then do we, beings created from the same breath as the stars, fight with time? Because we have forgotten that we are not the masters of destiny. We are the students of it. The wise man does not demand the next chapter. He turns the pages with patience, knowing the author knows the ending. God is the author. You are the page. July is the turning of a new chapter. Many people pray for answers but are unwilling to wait for the appointed time. They pray for change, but resist the stillness that precedes it. But every meaningful transformation begins in silence. Consider the cocoon. The caterpillar enters it not with noise, but with stillness. And from that darkness, it is transformed into something that can fly. The cocoon is not a prison, it is a process. So too are the quiet seasons of your life. You are not being punished, you are being positioned. There is a story in every spiritual tradition about appointed times. In the Christian faith, there is a phrase, in the fullness of time. Not in the rush of time, not in the panic of time, but in the fullness, the completeness of time. That fullness is now. July has arrived full. It has arrived prepared, not because of the month itself, but because your soul is now aligned with what it was designed to carry. This is the hour that has been prepared for you and the hour you have been prepared for. I often tell my students at the temple, the hardest training is not physical, it is spiritual patience. It is staying calm when your mind screams to react. It is standing still when your ego wants to run. It is being at peace when everyone else is chasing what isn't theirs. You must learn to wait without anxiety and act without hesitation. That is the balance, that is the discipline. And that is the path of those who walk with the divine clock instead of against it. When a martial artist enters combat, they do not rush the fight. They listen to timing. 1 second too early and the move fails. 1 second too late and the window closes. Victory belongs to the one who moves in divine timing. So too with life. Some of you are moving too early, driven by fear of missing out. Others are moving too late, paralyzed by fear of failure. July is not about either. It is about align right time, right move, right spirit. But how do you know when that time has come? You don't look outside, you look within. The inner signal comes first. It may not be loud. It may not come with fireworks. It may simply feel like a quiet shift, a release of resistance, a deep exhale, a knowing that no longer needs proof. That's when you know. That's when the inner clock has struck the hour. And if you honor that, you will walk into divine doors that no man can shut. This month is not about striving, it's about stepping. You have been striving too long, running from deadline to deadline, chasing one desire after another. Now, July says, walk in alignment. Let the fruit fall when it's ripe. Let the waters part when it's time. Let the call come when the heart is quiet. The plan has already been written. Your role is not to rewrite it. Your role is to live it with presence, with discipline, with trust. So if you feel nothing is happening, breathe. If you feel like time has passed you by, breathe. If you are tempted to compare your life to others, breathe. The bamboo is growing underground. The clock is ticking in heaven. You are not forgotten. You are not late. You are exactly where you are meant to be, and what you've been prepared for begins now. At the monastery, there is a gong that sounds every hour, but long before the sound is heard, the mechanism has been moving silently. So too is God's plan. What you hear in July is only the sound, but the preparation began long ago, and your obedience, your patience, your perseverance has not gone unnoticed. This is not a month of random blessings, it is a month of revealed blueprints. What you could not see, what you could not explain, what you could not understand, now you will. And so I say again, as clearly as I can, the divine clock is never late. It is exact. It is sacred. It is personal. It is perfect. And this July, it is ticking in your favor. Walk softly, move wisely, and listen closely, because what is meant for you is now moving towards you. Not a second too early, not a moment too late, but right on time. In life, most suffering comes not from what happens, but from our unwillingness to let go. We hold, we cling, we attach ourselves to what was, to what could have been, to who we once were, and in this clinging we create tension. That tension becomes blindness. It becomes noise. And in that noise we cannot hear what the divine is trying to say. This is why detachment is not just a virtue, it is a necessity. It is not a sign of weakness, but of great strength. To detach is not to give up. It is to finally make space for something higher to enter. It is the act of stepping aside so that revelation may step in. The beginning of July is not a beginning for those who are full of themselves. It is not a season for those who carry with them the debris of past decisions, the heaviness of unprocessed emotions, or the confusion of voices that were never meant to guide them. If your hands are already full, how can you receive what is new? If your heart is already crowded, how can peace take up residence? You must create emptiness, and that emptiness begins with detachment. To detach is to clear the mirror of the soul. When a mirror is dirty, no reflection is clear. When the soul is crowded with opinions, expectations, regrets, and imagined futures, It cannot receive truth. In the Shaolin Temple, we do not begin the day by adding more. We begin the day by emptying. Emptying the breath, emptying the mind, emptying the ego. Why? Because emptiness is potential. Emptiness is not the absence of value. It is the space in which value can manifest. There are many people who pray for guidance, but they are not ready to detach from the guidance of the world. They are addicted to approval, to likes, to recognition. They ask God to show them their purpose, but they still cling to the roles that were never meant for them. They say they want peace, but they do not want to put down the sword of judgment they carry against themselves and others. Detachment is not just physical, it is emotional, it is spiritual, it is mental. If you want the divine to fill your cup, you must be willing to pour out what no longer belongs. Ask yourself, what are you holding that is blocking your growth? What memory do you keep repeating like a sacred hymn, hoping it will somehow make sense? What relationship are you still emotionally tethered to, even though it has long departed your life? What version of yourself are you defending, simply because letting it go would mean embracing the unknown? These are not small questions. These are spiritual locks on the doors of destiny, and only detachment holds the key. There is a silence that comes with letting go, a terrifying sacred silence. It is the silence of the unknown, the silence of the in-between, the silence where you are no longer who you were and not yet who you are becoming. Most people run from this silence, but the one who seeks transformation must enter it. In that silence, your soul recalibrates. In that silence, what is false begins to fall away. In that silence, what is true begins to rise. I remember my own journey through the path of detachment. There was a time when I trained with intensity but held too tightly to outcomes. I wanted to be recognized for my discipline. I wanted to reach a level of mastery that others would admire. But this need, though subtle, was a form of attachment. Attachment to image. Attachment to reputation. And because of that attachment, I was blind to the next layer of refinement my soul needed. Only when I released the desire for recognition did my training evolve into something purer. Only when I detached from external reward did internal mastery begin. This is not just my path. It is the path for anyone who wishes to go beyond form into essence. You may say, but I have responsibilities. I cannot just let go, and I will tell you this. Detachment is not irresponsibility. It is not apathy. It is alignment. When a tree lets go of its leaves, it is not dying. It is preparing for renewal. When you let go of what no longer aligns, you are not giving up. You are clearing the way for what truly belongs. Letting go of the wrong does not mean you are left with nothing. It means you are finally able to receive the right. Many people do not realize that clarity comes after release, not before. You cannot wait to feel ready. You must choose to let go, and then clarity will follow. You must drop the weight, and then you will rise. Just as the lotus rises from the mud, your revelation will rise from the space that detachment creates. The more you hold, the more you sink. The more you release, the more you ascend. Sometimes, what you must detach from is not a person, but a belief that you are not enough, a belief that nothing will change, a belief that your past defines you. These beliefs are not truths. They are illusions, passed down by fear, by culture, by trauma, and yet you carry them as if they were sacred truths. I tell you, let them go. A belief is a seed. If you water a lie, it grows into limitation. But if you uproot that lie, you make room for faith. You make room for vision. You make room for truth. In this season, at the start of July, heaven is speaking softly, but the ears that can hear are not the ones tuned to noise. They are the ones cleansed by detachment. If you want to hear clearly, you must be willing to empty. Your future is not hidden from you, it is hidden by you, hidden behind your insistence on carrying what was never meant to be carried. In the Shaolin teachings, we say, to carry the mountain, you must become the wind. The mountain represents the burdens of life, the opinions of others, the weight of expectations, the pressure to perform. The wind represents freedom, flow, and form without attachment. When you become the wind, you move with grace. You pass through life without being trapped by it. You remain rooted but not rigid, present but not possessive. This is what detachment offers. It does not make you passive. It makes you powerful. It does not make you cold. It makes you clear. It does not remove desire. It refines desire. Because when you are detached, you no longer chase out of need, you attract from wholeness. You are no longer led by desperation, you are moved by vision. Detachment is a returning to your original state, before the noise, before the fear, before the labels. When a child plays, they are fully present. They are not worried about tomorrow. They are not attached to outcome. They are in flow. They are in trust. That is the essence you must return to. That is where revelation meets you, not in the tangled forests of fear, but in the clear sky of surrender. Let me speak directly to the one who feels stuck. You are not stuck because life has stopped. You are stuck because you are holding too tightly. You are stuck because you are afraid to release what has become familiar. But freedom does not come from familiarity, it comes from faith. You do not have to know what is next. You only have to let go of what no longer serves. And in that empty space, the divine will fill you with something beyond what you can currently imagine. July is not asking you to figure it all out. July is asking you to open your hands, to drop the weight, to trust the process, to let the old fall away so the new may rise. This is not a month of clinging, it is a month of shedding, and the lighter you become, the more you will see, because detachment is the doorway to revelation. Not a single step further can be taken on your path until you release what you were never meant to carry this far. So I invite you, today, not tomorrow, to breathe in deeply, and as you exhale, feel the release. Let go of the names you were called. Let go of the roles you were assigned. Let go of the dreams that were born out of fear instead of love. Let go of the anger you thought was protecting you. Let go of the guilt that has clung to your shoulders for far too long. Inhale trust. Exhale control. Inhale peace. Exhale pressure. Inhale purpose. Exhale pain. This breath, this moment, this month can become your turning point. Not by striving, but by surrender. Not by accumulation, but by detachment. The doorway is open, but only the empty hand may pass through. Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is not hardship. Discipline is a sacred agreement between your present self and the future you are becoming. It is the silent conversation between you and the divine, not through loud prayers or dramatic rituals, but through the quiet repetition of daily practice. The one who is disciplined is not a prisoner. The one who is disciplined is free. Free from chaos, free from distraction, free from the slavery of mood and emotion, and in that freedom, one becomes capable of receiving and executing the divine plan that was written long before birth. July is not a month of wishing. It is a month of walking. And to walk in alignment with heaven, you must walk with discipline. Many people ask, when will my life change? And the answer is always the same: when your habits change. You cannot pray for strength and continue feeding weakness. You cannot ask for clarity and remain committed to confusion. You cannot expect new outcomes from old routines. The laws of heaven are not emotional, they are precise. As you sow, so shall you reap. Not only in fields and finances, but in your thoughts, your words, your actions, your time. You are planting something every moment. And July is the harvest of your earliest seeds. What you do today is the prophecy of your tomorrow. Discipline is the visible sign of inner order. It is the external reflection of a mind that has been calmed, a soul that has been humbled, a heart that has been instructed. And yet, discipline is often misunderstood. People think it is harsh, rigid, restrictive, but in truth, it is the most loving path you can walk. For it honors the spirit over the senses. It honors the calling over the comfort. It honors long-term peace over temporary pleasure. That is not oppression, that is mastery. At the Shaolin Temple, we do not begin training when we feel like it. We train every day without excuse. Before the sun rises, our bodies are moving, our breath is aligned, our focus is sharpened. Not because someone forces us, but because we understand that discipline is the sharpening of the sword. A soul that is never trained becomes dull. A soul that is never trained becomes reactive. A mind that is never disciplined becomes noisy, and a life that is never ordered becomes lost. The divine speaks most clearly to the one who has created the space to hear. But if your life is filled with noise, how can you hear anything at all? Your sleep patterns matter, your food matters, your words matter, the way you begin your day matters. These are not small details, these are spiritual tools. Each is a form of communication with the sacred. The question is not, is God speaking to me? The question is, am I quiet enough to hear? And that quietness is born from discipline. In modern life, people wait for motivation. But motivation is not dependable. It is fleeting, emotional, unstable. Discipline does not wait. Discipline moves regardless of feeling. And in that movement, something miraculous happens. Motivation is born, not the other way around. Those who wait to feel inspired will live their lives waiting. Those who move with discipline will become the inspiration others are waiting for. Consider the seasons. The tree does not choose whether to shed its leaves or not. The river does not stop because it is tired. The sun does not ask if it is ready to rise. Nature obeys its rhythm. It does not negotiate with itself, and because of that it fulfills its purpose. Why then do you hesitate to follow your own rhythm? Because you have forgotten that you too are nature. You too were created with rhythm and reason, and that rhythm will only return when discipline is restored. There are things heaven has written for you, but they can only be given to a certain version of you. Not the undisciplined you, not the scattered you, not the reactive you, but the version of you who has emptied themselves of laziness, who has silenced the noise, who has made their body and mind a temple instead of a battlefield. This version of you is not far away. It is not imaginary. It is waiting just on the other side of your next choice, one disciplined act at a time. To live with discipline is to declare that your purpose matters, that your time is sacred, that your energy is valuable, that your thoughts are not trash to be dumped anywhere, but seeds to be planted with care. You do not train for vanity. You train to become useful to the mission, to become steady in the storm, to become reliable to the divine. This is why spiritual warriors are not defined by emotion, but by execution. What you do in private is who you are becoming. And July is not looking for wishful thinkers. July is looking for doers of the word, keepers of the way, stewards of the calling. Many people want divine revelation, but they cannot even manage their daily routine. They want spiritual power, but they cannot control their appetite. They want to lead others, but they cannot lead themselves. Discipline is the bridge between desire and manifestation. It is the gap between who you are and who you are meant to be. It is not built overnight. It is built moment by moment, choice by choice, breath by breath. Some days you will feel like giving up. Some mornings you will wake up tired, uninspired, confused. It is in those moments that discipline becomes your lifeline. Feelings are not facts, but discipline is an anchor. When your emotions shift like waves, discipline grounds you in principle. And principle is eternal. It does not rise and fall with opinion. It does not change with the news. It does not fade with failure. Discipline is not built by what you do once. It is built by what you return to again and again and again. In our training, we bow before entering the hall, not out of ritual, but out of recognition. Recognition that this space is sacred, that this time is sacred, that this body, though temporary, is a sacred vehicle. So we honor it through movement, through breath, through silence. Every bow is a reminder. I am here with purpose. I am not drifting. I am not lost. I am not a victim of time. I am a vessel of time, and I must treat that time with reverence. Discipline teaches you how to keep your promise to yourself. And when you become a person who keeps promises to yourself, you become a person that heaven can trust. The small rituals you build, waking up early, praying in stillness, eating with awareness, walking with intention, these are not meaningless. These are signs that you are ready, that you are mature enough to carry what has been delayed. You are mature enough to carry what has been delayed. Many things you are waiting for are not being denied. They are waiting for you to grow into someone who can carry them without dropping them. That growth is called discipline. When you are disciplined, you are no longer ruled by reaction. You no longer need the world to slow down for you to feel at peace. You carry peace into the chaos. You become still in movement. You become soft in strength. You become focused in a world addicted to distraction. This is power, not the power of control, the power of alignment. You are no longer just surviving. You are transmitting the order of heaven through the vehicle of your life. And what happens when a soul begins to live like this? Doors open, not because you chased them, but because they were always assigned to the version of you that you have now become. Opportunities align, people arrive, the right words are spoken. Why? Because discipline creates frequency, and frequency creates attraction. You do not need to force what belongs. You only need to become someone who belongs to it. That is the hidden gift of discipline. It transforms your vibration. It lifts you out of fear, out of confusion, out of aimlessness, and places you squarely in your purpose. Irai is a divine appointment. But appointments require preparation. The question is not whether God will move. The question is whether you are ready. Have you shown up to your life with discipline? Have you honored the temple of your body? Have you sharpened the sword of your focus? Have you silenced the noise in your mind long enough to hear the soft whispers of wisdom? You cannot microwave spiritual maturity. You cannot fast-track inner order. These things are forged in the fire of consistency, and consistency is the fruit of discipline. So ask yourself, what have I been avoiding? What have I made excuses for? What promise did I break to myself that I must now return to? These are the questions that unlock the path forward. Not dramatic changes, but quiet realignments. You already know what needs to change. The voice has already spoken. The question is, will you obey? Obedience is not about external rules. It is about inner order. A tree obeys the wind. A bird obeys the sky. A river obeys the mountain. And a warrior obeys the call. That obedience is called discipline. And in July, it is not optional. It is the gate. The divine is not looking for the most gifted. The divine is looking for the most consistent, the most trustworthy, the most ready. And readiness is revealed in rhythm, not just in moments of inspiration, but in daily integration, not just in Sunday rituals, but in Monday decisions, not just in big breakthroughs, but in small behaviors. This is the way. This is the teaching. This is the quiet power of discipline. The invisible root that supports the visible fruit. The unseen effort that carries the seen outcome. If you truly desire what was written for you, then start with one thing today. Not everything, just one. Wake up on time. Drink water with presence. Speak with intention. Silence your phone. Say no when needed. Say yes when it aligns. Build one brick of discipline today. And tomorrow, another. Soon, you will look up and realize that the temple has been built, not in a day, but in devotion. Discipline is your proof of faith. It is your response to revelation. It is the signal to heaven, I am ready. And Julie is listening. When people speak of change, they often think in terms of what they can touch, see, or measure. They look for evidence in the outer world. A new job, a healed relationship, a financial breakthrough, a shift in circumstances. But the truth is, no lasting transformation ever begins in the physical. Real change starts in the invisible, in the quiet realms of thought, emotion, intention, and spirit. It is in these sacred layers that the shape of your life is formed. The visible is only a reflection of the invisible. The physical is only an echo of the spiritual. So when you say you want your life to change, the real question is, have you changed within? The start of July is not merely a date on a calendar. It is a threshold. It is a spiritual gate. What you cross into this month will not depend on your outer performance alone. It will depend on your inner frequency, your alignment, your clarity, your ability to attune yourself to the truth of who you really are beneath the noise of fear, doubt, and ego. The spiritual always precedes the physical. It is not something to believe because it sounds poetic. It is something to experience because it is eternal law. You are not a body that has a soul. You are a soul that temporarily inhabits a body. And so the soul must lead. A shift in the spirit is often silent. It does not announce itself with fireworks. It does not beg for attention. It happens quietly, sometimes in a deep breath, sometimes in a tear, sometimes in a moment of surrender, when you finally release the need to control everything and simply allow yourself to be. That is where true power lives. In the stillness, in the surrender, in the decision to stop fighting the current of your life and start flowing with it. Many people are waiting for something outside of them to change before they feel peace. But this is backward. Peace is not the result of external order, it is the cause of it. You do not wait for peace to arrive. You choose peace now, and the outer world begins to organize itself around that decision. The battle has never been outside of you. It has always been within. And until you win that inner war, between fear and faith, chaos and calm, truth and illusion, no external victory will ever satisfy you. We train our bodies at the Shaolin Temple not just for strength but for awareness. Because when the body is still, the mind can become quiet, and when the mind is quiet, the spirit can rise to the surface. Most people live their lives disconnected from this order. They feed the body while starving the soul. They consume information but avoid introspection. They chase success but never stop to ask who is the one chasing and why. July is not just about doing, it is about becoming. And becoming begins in the unseen. It begins when you stop asking what can I get and begin asking what am I here to give. When you stop measuring your progress by what others say and start measuring it by how deeply you feel the stillness of your own spirit. When you stop waiting for the storm to pass and learn to find the center of the storm, the place where silence lives even in the midst of noise. The spiritual shift is subtle, but irreversible. It changes how you respond, how you breathe, how you walk into rooms. It changes your posture, not only your physical one, but the posture of your soul. You are no longer leaning forward in desperation or leaning backward in avoidance. You are centered, present, awake. From that place, life begins to meet you differently. Not because life changed, but because you changed. In our temple, we do not teach that life must become easier. We teach that you must become deeper. Deeper in awareness, deeper in self-control, deeper in surrender. Because depth brings perspective. And when you have perspective, nothing outside of you can truly shake you. A man who has gone deep within himself cannot be manipulated by shallow noise. A woman who knows her soul cannot be controlled by surface-level fear. And this depth, that's the real shift. That is the inner earthquake that quietly rearranges your whole life, even before anything outside of you begins to move. People often ask, how will I know the shift is happening? And the answer is simple. You will start to feel uncomfortable in situations you once tolerated. You will begin to crave solitude over distraction. You will stop seeking validation from those who never understood your value. You will start to speak less and listen more. You will start to feel a magnetic pull towards stillness, silence, and sacred discipline. These are not signs of isolation. These are symptoms of awakening. When your spirit begins to shift, your environment will start to adjust. This may mean relationships fall away, patterns begin to collapse, old routines feel unnatural. It may feel like loss, but it is not punishment. It is pruning. The branches that no longer bear fruit are being cut, so more light can enter. If you try to hold on to what is falling away, you will suffer. But if you allow the shedding, you will be reborn. Let the old version of you fall like dry leaves in autumn. The roots remain, and from those roots, something new will grow. This month, stop trying to fix the outer world. Begin instead to observe the inner world. Watch your thoughts, watch your reactions. Notice what triggers you. Pay attention to what energizes you and what drains you. These are clues. These are instructions. The divine is always speaking, but we often miss the message because we are too busy performing for a world that does not know who we really are. You do not need to impress anyone to be worthy. You need only to return to the truth within you. And that truth is not loud. It is not angry. It is still and small and powerful beyond measure. And as the shift occurs in the spirit, your vision changes. You no longer chase what others are chasing. You begin to seek meaning over metrics, purpose over popularity, stillness over stimulation. And from this new alignment, your decisions begin to carry more weight. You speak less, but your words have more power. You do less, but your actions carry more impact. You become less visible to the world, but more visible to the divine. This is the sacred paradox of awakening. The more invisible your inner shift becomes, the more inevitable your outer transformation becomes. Nothing truly great happens in a rush. Mountains are not built in a day. Rivers are not carved in an hour. Your destiny is not revealed in a single breakthrough. It is unveiled slowly, quietly, one layer at a time, as you become capable of carrying the weight of it. The spiritual shift does not speed you up. It slows you down, so you can become conscious, so you can become responsible, so you can become aware of the unseen threads weaving your life together. You may not yet see the evidence of what is changing, but the absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence. The shift is already here. The question is not whether it has begun. The question is whether you are still enough to recognize it. Like a seed breaking open underground, transformation is first felt before it is seen. Trust what you feel, even if you cannot explain it. Trust what you sense, even if others cannot see it. The spirit speaks in symbols, in dreams, in nudges, in patterns, in synchronicities. Pay attention. Nothing is random anymore. Your body may not yet feel strong, but your spirit is awakening. Your situation may still look the same, but your lens is changing. This is the power of spiritual alignment. You stop living from reaction and start living from revelation. You stop chasing outcomes and start moving from inner knowing. You stop waiting for life to tell you who you are, and you begin to remember who you've always been. When you align with the spiritual shift, you begin to live above the storm, not because the storm disappears, but because you are no longer in it. You are above it, watching it, learning from it, navigating it with wisdom instead of fear. This is the promise of the inner path. You do not avoid suffering, but suffering no longer disturbs your peace, because peace is no longer tied to what is happening. It is tied to where you are standing. And in spirit, You are always standing on sacred ground. Let this be the month you stop looking outward for signs. Let this be the month you turn inward and listen to the compass within you. There is a voice in your soul that already knows what to do. It speaks in clarity, not urgency, in peace, not pressure. It whispers, not shouts. And it will never lead you into confusion. It will lead you into alignment. But you must become quiet enough to hear. You must become present enough to follow. And you must become strong enough to obey. The shift is already here. Not in the headlines, not in the marketplace, not in the outer chaos. It is here in your breath, in your choices, in the posture of your spirit. And if you honor that shift now, if you commit to the invisible realignment, the physical manifestations will come, not as accidents, but as confirmations, not as